3 million, not numbers on a spreadsheet, not a headline buried in the Globe, a human flood. 3 million bodies in 3 years. 10% of the country imported overnight. In Canada, Canada's not a country anymore, it's a cartel. Needle in the vein, strung out like a junkie, hooked on newcomers chasing the next fix, high on its own supply, even if it kills the host. Picture the thumbnail, the arrivals board, that endless line of luggage. That's not Pearson Airport, that's your financial future, bleeding out at the baggage claim. Every suitcase equals another bid on the house, every passport stamp, another buyer in your market. Every welcome to Canada, another chance your kid gets trapped out of the housing market. This isn't about families who come here. If I lived in chaos abroad, I would come too. This is about Ottawa's recklessness. And here's why you can't look away. By the end of this video, you'll know the 3 permanent scars this immigration wave has carved into the Canadian economy. And the only play left if you don't want to bleed 6 figures. Ottawa calls it targets. You call it financial suicide. They clap in Parliament, you sweat over renewals. They brag about growth, you feel broke. This isn't growth, this is policy arson. The country lit on fire and your savings, that's the kindling. Let's talk numbers. In 2022, Canada brought in 437,000 permanent residents, the most in history. In 2023, the population surged by over 1 million people in a single year. That's a 3.2% spike, faster than any other G7 country, faster than the UK, faster than the US, France, Germany, Japan, all of them. In 2024, another 744,000 newcomers pushed us over 41 million Canadians total. That's not immigration, that's population shockwave. That's like adding Calgary in 1 year, or adding Toronto in a decade without actually building Toronto. Now stack that against supply. Canada builds around 220,000 homes per year. 1 million new people, 220,000 homes. That's 5 buyers chasing every single front door. And CMHC admits it. Canada needs 3.5 million additional homes by 2030 just to restore affordability. Not normal growth, the catch-up gap. 3.5 million. That's the equivalent of building Vancouver, Calgary, and Ottawa combined in 5 years. Forget it. Housing starts aren't climbing, they're falling. Down for the 3rd straight year. Developers can't build at today's rates. Labor costs, financing, all choking them out. So instead of catching up, we're sinking further behind. And here's the generational gut punch. Back in the 1960s, nearly 60% of Canadians owned a home by the age of 30. By 2000, 32%. By 2020, 15%. 1 in 7. That's not a dream, that's a generational extinction. Your grandparents bought homes with 1 income and a handshake. Your parents needed 2 incomes, but they still managed. Your kids, 2 jobs, a side hustle with a side of parental support, and they're still renting at age 40. Picture this, a nurse and a teacher, both full-time professionals, still can't afford a starter home in Mississauga or Scarborough. So when Ottawa floods the market with another 1 million people without building homes, what do you think happens? Prices don't cool, they calcify. Even in 2025, with interest rates choking demand, the average Canadian home is still $690,000. Toronto detached, 1.2 million. Vancouver detached, 1.6 million. Calgary pushing records. Condos, the so-called affordable option, high-rises bleeding 6 figures, and I've seen it firsthand. One of my sellers bought for 1.2 million. We just sold it for $1,050,000. That's a $150,000 loss. And here's the kicker. She didn't even buy at the peak. If she had, she would have paid $1.4 million. That's not a paper cut. That's a jugular slash. And she's not alone. It's happening coast to coast. Families who thought they were safe now realizing that Ottawa's policy math turned their equity into confetti. And here's the trap. Immigration demand keeps a false floor on prices. Instead of crashing, homes stay just high enough that buyers can't afford them, but owners can't sell them without a loss. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about families who come here. This is about Ottawa's recklessness. They opened the gates without building the bridge. They added millions of buyers without millions of homes. They sold you growth, but delivered you debt. And Canadians are waking up. For the first time in 25 years, a majority now say immigration levels are too high. Not fringe, not Twitter trolls, not Mike, the crazy fear-mongering grifter on YouTube. Mainstream Canada, your neighbors, your coworkers, your parents, and Ottawa blinked. After years of bragging about record highs, they've started cutting from 500,000 a year down to 395,000. Even they admit that the system is cracked. But here's the cliffhanger. Dialing it down now doesn't undo yesterday's disaster. The 1 million+ people who already arrived, they're not leaving. The homes we didn't build, they won't appear tomorrow. The equity Canadians already lost, it's not coming back next month. The scars are permanent. So yeah, my thumbnails are intense, and some of you guys probably think I'm a little crazy. But if I wasn't, you wouldn't still be watching right now. Now, this market is brutal, and I want to help you out. That's why I built a free seller's guide. Click the link below, no pressure, just fact. Because in this market, every dollar is oxygen. Now, as I mentioned, Ottawa blinked. For the first time in decades, they admitted the fire is out of control. Immigration targets cut from 500,000 a year down to 395,000. And they'll stand there in Parliament, clap their hands, and sell it as responsible management. But it isn't. It's not bold. It's not leadership. It's survival desperation. The same arsonist tossing a Dixie cup of water on a house that's already burned to the ground. Because let's be clear, the damage is baked in. The million plus who arrived in 2023, they're not leaving. The homes we didn't build, still missing. The 6 figures of equity Canadians have already lost doesn't come back. It isn't reset. This is a scar, and scars last. Everyone expected a crash, but immigration demand kept prices from collapsing. Now, instead of affordability, we're stuck in limbo. It's the worst of both worlds. Prices not high enough for sellers to feel rich, not low enough for buyers to break in. This isn't stability, it's paralysis. Here's the blood math. A $400,000 mortgage at 2%, about $1,700 a month. Renew at 5%, now it's nearly $2,300. That's an extra $600 every month. A $600,000 mortgage, that's an extra $900. This isn't theory. This is your paycheck bleeding out in real time. Now multiply that across 500,000 households renewing this year. Families who budgeted to the dollar, who thought they were safe, now getting hit with bills they can't absorb. And when they say, fine, I'll sell, they discover they're underwater. House worth less than what they owe the bank. Bleeding equity like an open wound. That's not a market correction. That's a generational mugging. And the pain isn't equal. Ontario and BC took the brunt. That's where the jobs were. That's where the newcomers landed. That's where the housing market broke the fastest. Toronto, Vancouver, Brampton, Surrey, the crash zones. Meanwhile, in Quebec, they capped their intake, 50,000 a year. They had an agreement. While Ontario drowned, Quebec insulated itself. Different rules, different outcomes, same country. If that doesn't prove Ottawa's policy broke housing, nothing will. The viral horror stories. And the desperation is visible. In Toronto, a landlord went viral for listing half a bed, literally half a queen-size bed for $900 a month. Not a room, not a futon, half a bed. That's not housing, that's humiliation. That's what Ottawa's math looks like in the real world. And the food banks, breaking records. Middle-class families, 2 incomes, decent job, now lining up beside minimum wage workers just to afford groceries. That's the Canada they sold as growth. In the 1960s, nearly 60% of Canadians owned homes by 30. By 2020, 15%. Now it's even lower. That's not a chart. That's a death certificate of the Canadian dream. Because home ownership isn't just about shelter. It's about stability. It's about raising kids. It's about knowing you can stay rooted. Now we're delaying families, birth rates collapsing, young Canadians renting into their 40s while boomers sit on equity castles. That's how you hollow out a nation. Not with war, not with bombs, with policy. And Canadians have finally snapped. And Ottawa only cut because they were scared. Not of economics, of elections, of losing power. That's the only lever they respond to. But don't be fooled. Even with cuts, Canada will still add 400,000 newcomers every single year. That's still more people than homes. Still more strain on ERs, schools, and roads. Still more buyers chasing fewer doors. The wave may be smaller, but the water is still rising. So where does that leave you? If Ottawa can't save you, what's the play? Here's the strategy. Step 1, step to reality. 2021 prices aren't coming back. That wasn't normal. That was mania. Cheap money and floodgates open. If you're holding a property you can't afford, sell before the bank sells it for you. Step 2, buy smarter, not harder. Yes, affordability is completely broken, but you're not powerless. If you're buying in Canada, don't play fair. Stack the odds. That's why I built my buyer rebate program. I rebate 100% of my commission back to you. No questions asked. On $1 million purchase, that's $25,000 back in your pocket. That's survival money, because in this market, every dollar's oxygen. Step 3, prioritize liquidity over everything else. Forget timing peaks, forget nostalgia. The game is speed. How fast you can list, how fast you can sell, how fast you can stop bleeding before your carrying costs vary. Liquidity over fantasy, cash flow over pride. Step 4, stop pretending Ottawa gives a shit about you. They don't. They clap while you sweat, they brag while you bleed. If you're waiting for policy to rescue you, you'll drown. This isn't cynicism, it's survival. And here's the twist. The housing crisis, it's not the final chapter, it's the opening act. When homeownership collapses, everything else follows. Jobs, taxes, debt, even culture. You don't just lose affordability, you lose stability, you lose trust, and when trust cracks, the whole system does. That's why polite nations stop being polite. That's when fractures turn permanent, and Canada, we're standing right on the edge. So yeah, my thumbnails are a little intense, and some of you probably think I'm a little crazy. But if I wasn't, you definitely wouldn't still be watching right now. And if you're still here, you already know this market's tough. That's why I built a free seller's guide. Click the link below and grab it. And when you're ready for straight answers about your place, book a call with me. No pressure, just the truth. 3 million arrivals, 3 million consequences, 3 million reminders. Ottawa won't save you, but I might.